4.0.1 is live, and now the Misc Fortune is in game, a variant of the Prospector that is dedicated to salvage. You can note that one giant head on the front, and then the two whiskers, as they're called, to help with breakup alongside that single salvage head. Now, there is something a little unique about this. This is one of the few times you'll ever see one of my ships without a paint on it. And I thought, that's not a really a terrible thing or anything. I just did want to show off the Misc raw metal effect, a lot like the Star Lancer series we recently saw get rolled out. But for me, I prefer paints, so we're gonna change this to something more suitable. But you will note that this is not a bad looking paint. No paint, so on its default livery. So if you are interested in something like that, like say you're CCUing through the chain, and you absolutely could go with it. However, for 9 USD, this is the reserve paint. It is not concierge. I repeat, not concierge. So if you have the store credit, or if you're interested in something like this, the reserve paint, to my knowledge, is not a limited edition, and in my opinion, it should have been the concierge skin. They chose like this orange one. You'll note that this is where the auto unloading of containers goes to. If you have that checked onto Fabricators, we'll go into it inside. But you can see I'm gesturing towards these grab tracks that go to 6 1SCU cargo grids on both sides of the ship. There's a matching version of that on the left side of the ship. So it is interesting that you have 12 SCU externalized cargo hold. And the topic of cargo is a big part of this, because salvage is, just like any industrial endeavor, important about efficiency and important about how much work can you get done in a single run, etc., etc., etc. And one of the direct things that was brought up in the Q&A was the Vulture can hold 39 SCU if you really cram it. What can you do with this? And the CIG claims they got 47 SCU of cargo inside this ship, and you'll see there's a pretty spacious interior, but they're counting the interior plus that 12 SCU of box storage on the side of the ship, the 4 SCU actual cargo grid in the rear elevator of the ship you'll see in just a moment, and then also the filler station internal buffer, which I believe was 12 SCU off the top of my head. 13 SCU. So, what you'll see is that I think the Vulture versus the Fortune is kind of is an effect and a feel. The Vulture is a little long in the tooth compared to this brand new ship. And if you like the Prospector's good visibility, and combined with this crazy giant room in the back that the Prospector for some reason has not received yet, if it ever will, unfortunately, we'll see. Now, this big elevator, you couldn't fit inside the Prospector back because of some of the way it is set up, unless there was a pass that moved things around, but you absolutely could fit some space back there. This is me testing out on a single person ship why you would have an elevator system like this. There is only one seat on the whole ship that is not the pilot seat, and that is if you sit on the bed, which in the future, who knows if that's going to protect you from G-force issues, or lie on the bed, I guess, technically too. Inside here, you'll note that there are lighting changes that you can do, just like most of the modern ships. And you can change out for emergency lighting, auxiliary lighting, which is what you're seeing right now is auxiliary lighting. It's a little finicky, like always. But for your longer duration flights and your time, let's say you're scooting around Pyro trying to stay away from people, and you want the lights to be low, you're spending a lot of hours in this ship, I could see you doing things. Now, this ship does have more quantum than the Vulture, which I feel obligated to compare it to. But when you actually get to this crafting system, like I mentioned, they both can hold quite a lot of stuff. You can note that the crafting system has the same type of stuff where you can build a tractor beam, you can build the pyro multi-tool to fit to the tractor beam, the Cambrio light repair system, like the attachment, and the canisters to load it with. So it's doing light repairs by a single hand tool, and then most importantly, fuses. I believe that a ship like the Vulture or a ship like the Fortune will be very useful, especially early on before people have the ability to just click the craft button on bigger fabricators inside other ships or inside outposts and such. But it is interesting to note. This is the auto eject button that allows you to use that 6 SCU of storage on each side externalized onto those cargo grids, and these windows, while not perfect, do allow you to see out. I wish there was a camera button where you could click somewhere right there and it activated like a little camera so you could take a peek on the side of the ship and confirm what's what, where's where. But it is not bad. The windows are okay. You'll note that this is a matching fabricator. Hilariously, CIG said that this is exciting new ground for them to have 2 fabricators, and that's where the thing pops out that you fabricate. On a much larger scale, the Reclaimer has dual fabricators, and I personally have had with friends and workmates adventures adding a lot of containers and things to make in said machines and other fun things aside from the big boxes of material to go sell from salvage runs. Heck, I even have a Reclaimer music video put at the end. You'll be one of the first people to watch it aside from Monkey. But anyway, who was in it? That's the only reason I reference him. One of the things that's really fun here, though, is that Misk to me is much more comfortable ship. I don't know why, but for me, I'm either hit or miss on Drake designs. Like the Cutlass, I love my Cutlass red. I love the design. I love the idea around it, especially when it was a respawnable ship, and now it is again. Especially when I don't have other solutions like parking a an Ursa medevac into, say, a larger ship or putting it into my Phoenix. It's absolutely something I used to do for years, cruising around with a Cuddy Red. One of the best things I ever picked up. However, the game has changed a lot since then. Here's a weapons rack for single hand, like one hand weapons. So your utility gear. You could even fabricate some in the back and then store them there. Additional fuse storage and an engineering station that's not ready yet. But the first one is an active fuse on the left, it looks like. So anyway, the game has changed a little bit since. And as we start getting more and more of a mature game that requires food and substance, like you see here, and hygiene and other fun things, ships that are more comfortable will, I believe, be better in the long haul. I believe you could live out of this thing on the side of a moon somewhere, not keeping attention, and then when in the off hours logging back in, and your character's good to go do some more runs. Now, I do have a huge asterisk in the air that this thing only carries only a small amount over the Vulture, whereas they're claiming 47 SCU versus the Vulture's 39 SCU, and the Quantum Tank is bigger, but it's not massive or anything. It's not like multiple ordinal times bigger. I think there should have been a little more product segmentation, especially because the Vulture has 2 mining heads, whereas this has salvage heads, where this one only has 1. And obviously India is not my forte, but it is interesting to note some of those things. I feel like the Vulture is a faster, high-speed, low-drag, should be a shorter range kit, whereas this should be a longer range adventure. Go find rarer salvage maybe, or less risky salvage by keeping yourself away from a lot of folks that you may not... Remember, it is a single-person ship. So there's only going to be so much friendly salvage for this thing to take. And that brings me up to my next point. This thing does have limitations. I do agree with many posters in various places like this subreddit and on discords and such that this thing should have been more of like the size of an Arastra, or maybe not that big, but something that was like a medium class ship, like Mole size, for example, was another one I heard thrown around. This secondary entrance and exit is very useful. It is very reminiscent of its partner of the other variant, which is the Prospector, which has not seemed to receive a pass in 4.0.1. So if you're watching this just trying to find that out, apologies, should have led with that. Hopefully it will soon, because there was a few nice textures in here, and that back room that ship could greatly benefit from. But as it is, this is a nice little touch. And this is me trying to remember where the heck to open and close this door from. It's those two little buttons when you're staring at the door, bottom left corner below the door, to the left of the caution ladder symbol. And there's multiple of those symbols, and you don't have to tell us twice, many of the players. The reason I'm checking there is because that's where the Polaris is. They put the elevator entry point floating in the air near the front landing gear. Obviously this is far smaller. You can note those small little cannons. They are energy based weapons. There's a pair of them. They have a decent little clip until they blow through, but it's interesting. Also, you can note the mining laser has a arm just like a normal mining laser, and it is currently in a retracted mode. It really does show this was an interesting build for someone to do, to build out a salvage vessel out of a mining vessel. And it feels like something, once again, the company would be interested in doing, and like diversifying a already proven technology. You can see it can enter the ship from here. So if you were in a spacesuit in the middle of space, this wouldn't be a bad way to get in. Use the animation. I was a little nervous about the animations because they kind of has a big latch that like flies up at you. I could see you getting stuck in there. This is a restroom. Now I will note something interesting about this restroom. It seems to be the only door on the ship that is not fog. It does not have a glass, and I understand it's a restroom, but you could totally have a small window that is one-way glass, and that would have been a nice way to defend the ship. So if somebody raids your ship, maybe you lock this door from the inside. Maybe somebody would not notice you. You know, they check it out. They realize you only have a little bit of RMC on board. They take maybe a utility or a gun or two that's in the lockbox there and leave. Maybe. Who knows? It would be nice, right, to have little things like that for someone trying to defend the ship. I don't think there should be a window on that exterior door leading to the ladder, because somebody can look right in, unless it was one-way glass. But yes, little tidbits. The food and drink that's on board, it has like a water symbol instead of a coffee discussion, and then it seems like it has a very small fabricator. I don't know if the size will matter in the future. Obviously, again, this is only a single player ship, so who knows. It could just be a checkbox. There is theories that people have theory crafted for ages about like what would that be. Maybe when you're AFK, it will require eventually food, drinks, hygiene, to keep you going while you're AFK for long periods of time. Who knows if they'll ever go that far, but yeah, it is nice to be able to ride out. And I think anybody who's had to go make the run back to a station when it seems like it's a little sketchy and people might be camping it or trying to play games right at the edge of the armistice, if there even is an armistice, especially in Pyro, where you have places that don't, it can, or near Grim Hex or wherever you find yourself in a bad position, being able to having to run back because of something like that is pretty lame. So that's one of the reasons I like so much self-sufficiency. It's not like the Carrick effect where you want to go adventure the stars. This thing is kind of meant to be a short range or mid-range type craft, because you're eventually going to fill up your stores. And even if you do it, do everything by the book, I feel like, once again, Indies can correct me in the comments, but I feel like 47 SCU just ain't enough to really keep this going. Maybe if this thing was maybe on like I'm not gonna say a Star Lancer Max frame, but maybe that could have been a little better to be like something that truly differentiates the product. This is my little grasshopper test. So my SRV, which by the way I CCU'd from, so this thing was only 10 SCU for me if I didn't get the paint. The paint double my investment, so to speak. And then of course I'll get it later. I'll buy it in game, or I'll eventually CCU from something else back to my SRV in the future during a sale. But that was the grasshopper test. It is not as satisfying. Its landing gears, even though they're huge like that SRV, they don't seem to be as gentle and forgiving. Although this thing wants to live in space. That's the vibe I get, is that most salvage is going to be out in the stars. It's going to be out in the belts. It's going to be out in these different contracts you pull. And how does this thing perform? Well, it performs like a slow vulture. So it does have VTOL, which it's actually really good VTOL. When you go into the landing mode, it automatically engages it. You'll see how they all point down. It also has some okay reverse thrust. You'll note those huge reverse main thrusters on the back arms. They have like their own reverse thrust. I kind of toyed with that when I got out into space and the performance. So it kind of makes up for a little bit of its straight line acceleration and top speed by having these. You can just see, look at the size of those thrusters. So it doesn't have the Mirai anti-grav, floating ball head things of the Furies, or of the brand new Mirai Guardian series and the Guardian QI and all that. But it does have those beautiful counter thrust, and that is really useful, I feel. When you're flying up to a ship, maybe you're trying to poach some salvage or something that's not exactly, maybe it's gray area stuff, not the most legal, and you want to get in and get out. Maybe you're going to end up a crime stat, or if you're just trying to avoid getting hit by something, a damaged piece of a ship that's floating around. And that brings me to another point. This thing does have a tractor beam, so that seems to be a misnomer I've noticed on 2 different conversations I saw on Discords about this. People didn't think it had a tractor beam. They thought because it was like, oh, it's a weaker vulture, therefore blank. This thing actually does have a tractor beam. In its main mode, you right click, and then you can use a tractor beam to kind of hold things in place. You can't spin items, as far as I could tell, unless I was glitched, who knows. But you can move them towards you, you can move them away from you, and that means that you can get in your optimal distance without having to keep moving the ship. I learned that halfway through using the ship, so bear with me. It does slowly work through stripping down hull. It does have the braking ability of the vulture, or close to it. However, stripping hull, it is slower. And the idea is that it's supposed to be more convenient and easy. You're not managing the boxes as much, but it comes with a stock head that's slower than the vulture, and I have not had a chance to test the vulture's head on this one, onto this unit. However, which is really weird that they decided to do that, where they nerfed it basically before it came out, especially when the vulture is got so much more speed, maneuverability. It's a shorter range, but that's kind of weird. So in the Q&A, they mentioned that the key difference with the salvaging head setup versus the mining head, the unique aspect of the Fortune is the 2 salvage whiskers that deploy and retract with the arm, providing additional fracturing functionality required to fully salvage ships. And it's just really strange to me that they're trying to give this thing its own angle, and one of the things they did was they gave it a junk head that's it's weaker to do what I'm doing right now with it, instead of the Abrade salvage head by default as the vulture gets. So if you get the ABRADE Abrade salvage head, this thing apparently is going to be even better. So content creators, you can one-up me. You can go test it yourself and put that in a big red arrow and point, this is what you need to make your brand new Fortune awesome. And for those listening, Yeah, before you even fly out, go ahead and pick yourself one of them up. I'll put the Q&A in the description below, and I'll also attempt to find out where the Abrade is sold, and I'll put that in a comment below as well, or I'll put it in the description right next to it, actually. So if you go look at the description, you'll see everything there. I'm not trying to hide anything. I'm not trying to play games. Well, aside from the game here. So, space sim wise, I really enjoy things like Star Citizen, exploring new content. I really enjoy doing different things. While this is not my speed to be doing this for hours on end, I did have a lot of satisfaction actually building stuff in the back from this little bit of stuff I could find to mine. The contract I had seemed to keep glitching out, not telling me where to find it, and all the search targets around when I tried to use scan were not forthcoming. I kept finding stuff like this. So finally I just said, heck it. I did like 2 different sites that were like this to try to see what I could do. And as you can tell, I am just stripping off the material on the top. It would not allow me to fracture it no matter how close I got. And I mean close. But what you're going to see is an edit in a moment, so it speeds things up. And while I was watching a couple subtitled movies on my right screen, I was finishing this up so I'd have some content to show you. I think everybody kind of has their flow, and it did, like I said, the satisfaction for me was not this part. The satisfaction for me is making stuff, and that's kind of my take on industrial type stuff in these type of games in a nutshell. And Eve, I was not a miner. I didn't go mining everywhere. I went and built stuff, researched blueprints and BPC copies and whatever else. But a big part of what I did was well, supporting moon mining, to be fair, but also what I did personally to do anything was to pay for my plexus and stuff, was to build stuff. So that's where I got my enjoyment, moving things and logistics wise, and then moving. Anyway, you can see here, this is from the first pass, all that effort. After a little bit, I can build a canister. You'll note there's a couple different materials involved. There's 2 different types of materials with some of these things. But these canisters, here is the first item I've ever made on a Misc Fortune. Kind of neat. Little canister to hold material to fix things. If you did this plus the attachment on your multi-tool, which I did have a multi-tool on me, I would be able to have this nice filled canister with RMC material, and then be able to repair damage to a ship. Very light damage, but pretty dang neat. So you can note that blue circle, it's not an error, that's like in the UI of this system if you haven't salvaged in a bit. And you'll note the beautiful new HUD, by the way, that they've done for Misc, which is from above. It is too dang bright, but other than that, I like that, like a light effect that is above those HUDs. Maybe they were worried the HUD would be washed out when you're in the wrong position or something, but it's just a very bright light. Even when I turn the lights off in the cockpit, you have that bright light. This cockpit in particular, it has too much visibility. So you're going to hear me, you're going to roll your eyes, but I don't like this cockpit when you're in weird angles, because the sun gets in it and there's no way to keep it out. It's a very minor nitpick, but it has to be mentioned. There's the arm extended. It looks pretty neat. It also looks pretty fragile for what it is. So do bear that in mind. You hit the M key to activate that. So if you don't have your tooltips up, you hit the M key, and then your right click button will change different modes. And then it's Alt W, I think, and Alt S to move between like different other modes. You can see in the bottom right. So once again, if you don't have the tooltips, you could pause the video back there and go through it all. This is from a lot of material. And it's set to auto eject, but the buffer is not fully filled. It's nowhere near fully filled. So I decided to just test it after completing that piece, at least making it really low. And you'll note here that ejection does have a timer. You cannot go to third view to see outside, at least based on what I've seen, but you can see that little shadow inside the window. and the first box goes out. The box stays near the ejector, which is kind of weird, because if this system failed or something, I would prefer, I don't know why, but I feel like the boxes should go forward all the way to the front. That's a nitpick, but yeah. And then I produced two boxes, and then I saw one else I could craft, and then I went to the front, and you'll note that oxygen issue inside the ship. I left it in. Sorry to give you a jump scare there, but there is an issue with oxygen towards that ladder door. And you'll note that there's two boxes on the left side where we built them. So they ejects the first one out, and then it automatically pathfinds for the other ones. It's a very clever system. On a bigger ship, this would be extremely exciting. It's cool on this ship. On a bigger ship, this would be a really, really big deal, because in a way, it's like having an NPC that's just auto-functioning your cargo hold. Imagine if like you had the Starlancer Max, instead of those neat little doors that go down and then you have to hand unload everything. Imagine if it had those doors that pop open on the bottom, and then it had these like a wall of grids above it, and then you just kept pulling the bottom ones off, and it just kept auto bringing them down from every direction, from the sides, from the top, from angles from the top. Like, how cool would that be, where you could bring out all the load? Maybe even set the loads to like color code them like blue and red or something for different loads that are different deliveries, right? So there's a lot of really cool stuff you could do, and I purposely picked those because MISC makes the Starlancer series, and the Starlancer Max in particular is what I'm talking about. And I feel like this ship, there should have been some lessons from this ship put in that ship. But anyway, that's what I got on this thing. I know I'm not an expert on industrials. I am not a salvage expert in particular. So if you have any comments below, just at least for other people that are watching, if I had anything egregious, just feel free to comment. It's not going to hurt my feelings. If you appreciated it, that's also something I always like hearing about. And yeah, I feel like this ship at the price point, 160 USD, it's a great CCU. It's not a great like buy outright ship. I'm talking Warbond prices in USD, right? As of the launch of the ship. When you start talking about like 175 price point, like I did the CCU to that from the SRV. That's how I did it for 10 USD. Was to this credit version. And then again, the reserve paint is what you saw tonight. That is only 9 USD, which only, geez, I can't believe I'm conditioned. Oh, I guess it's better than a set of armor or something that I have so many of for PTU use and stuff. But anyway, the Fortune in general to me is a wonderful, fun stepping stone to have fun with, have adventures in. If this is going to be your only industrial ship, just make sure you understand what salvage is. I edited out minutes and minutes of stuff, right? So, and I didn't have, to be fair, I didn't have the best head, the Abrade salvage head, which again, go in the description to check out the locations. If I have them there, at the very least, the Q&A will have the proper spelling and explain that a little bit more directly from CIG. But it is a certain type of gameplay, and if this is going to be your only ship, I don't recommend it unless you're a diehard. This will not complete combat missions if you're by yourself. Do not take this thing into big combat contracts. You will, even if you live, which it does have actually more hit points than the Vulture, you will feel let down. What you can do with it in a group is follow behind a small gang and maybe even contribute to fights, preferably coming in right after it starts, so you're not the primary target, and then use your salvaging on other players or NPCs they take down. And that I could definitely see as a symbiotic thing, especially if you start getting other folks in on the cut of the cash. They're gonna be like, hey, this UEC is good on this. you know what? We're going to keep inviting this guy out to fly with us, and we're going to make some money. Everybody's going to make some money. It's going to be great, or running contracts and like treating this as like a pickup ship. So if you have a buddy who's less combat oriented, but you enjoy taking contracts that are combat related, maybe he could come in with you, once again, landing right after you do. So everybody bothers you. Ideally, you're already popping some of them, and then this thing comes out. Another symbiotic I could see with this is if the prospector can fit in a ship, then the fortune can fit in a ship. So in some of the larger ships in the game that can carry ships, particularly like a good one I could definitely see is the Kraken in the future, having one of these on top of the flight deck. And remember, you can buy this thing in game. You don't have to like have everything, especially smaller ships. Right away. But anyway, I could definitely see salvage ships like this constantly bringing goods back for sale on a privateer, or for support of a Kraken vanilla that is running an area and it has plenty of fuel, but it still needs to have material to fix all the buccaneers and cutlasses and whatever else is flying around on it. And this thing can suddenly, that'll be a wonderful symbiotic relationship. You don't risk this thing. The combat happens, and then one of the pilots comes back, hops in this, and then flies back to where the battlefield was, and this thing is salvaging everything in sight. And then comes back to the Kraken maybe once or twice, slaps all the boxes down, keeps on going back out there, and before you know it, you've got a brand new Buccaneer wing to put on one of the ships that got a Buccaneer wing blown off or something like that, right? So that to me is like the symbiotics. I think the question is scale, though. Somebody would gladly point out to me that there has to be another ship that's going to fill the void between the Reclaimer and the Vulture / Fortune. There has to be. And it's just the strangest thing that CIG is still with this ship. It could have like really pushed that angle. There was some really out there theory crafting out there. I'm not one of them, I'm proud to say this time. But there were some folks saying like, oh, they'll do like the hull sections of the smaller hulls and have like arms that outstretch out the sides, and it'll hold so much more y'all don't understand once it's laden down with goods. Yeah, that didn't happen. Maybe for the better. It would really look like a goofy ship. But I still feel that something else needs to come up. Probably Star Lancer max size, or maybe a little smaller, or just making a Rastra variant. That would be another easy out for the CIG. They could release both at the same time as a surprise secondary variant, sell even more. So you have the mining one, you have the salvage one, because they seem to not want to have a ship that can do both things. I do know the processes are different, but yeah. Anyway, I feel like there needs to be something smaller than a Reclaimer, because a Reclaimer does not play well with others. It's its own beast. It kind of runs its own little fleet, and it is very, very hard to work with that thing, other than just being a party bus. That's the thing. Defending it, keeping it going, getting it out of Atmo. It's just a real pain in the gut to use. The expense of it, recommending it to people's hard because it's, the price is so high. So yeah. Anyway, I hope to see something that is more in between in the future. I think the Fortune is a fun new ship. I do like it more than the Vulture. I like the visibility when the sun ain't in my eyes completely, and I do appreciate its capabilities, and I hope you do too. And once again, the descriptions of the Q&A, be sure to check it out before you pick one of these up. There is a zillion paints for it, so if you're looking for the reserve paint, it's in the Misk Fortune sale page. However, there's Year of the Whatever on there. I think it's the Pig and the Snake are the 2 years that are overlapping, that they gave it both. If you're ever wondering, so this is a question that came up. I was chatting with someone just tonight about this, and they were asking about what is the difference between the Year of the Whatever. And the difference is that it's celebrating the year of that lunar, the year of that of a specific animal, and then it changes during as I understand it, the new year. And I believe most countries call it the Lunar New Year. I'm going to be careful how I say that. But It is a regional celebration out in Asia, and CIG has been visiting one of the largest bar citizens in the world, actually in Shanghai, and I believe the other one is in Hong Kong. It's way smaller than the Shanghai one, if my memory serves me right, but they're still very big, and that is one of the reasons we have these Year of the Things events, and this is, I believe, is the Year of the Snake, I believe, which is pretty cool. So if you like those type of symbolisms, and you just want to celebrate that holiday, they're pretty neat. They're on a separate page. However, all the rest of the paints are on the page with the fortune, and I led it that way because I want to make it clear you do not have to go buy a special package just to get these. So I've seen people posting up the pictures of like these packages of like the prospector and the fortune together, plus the multiple year of the paints. You don't need to do that. You can buy the paint outright in the actual comlink page on the main news page. In fact, I'll put the link down below, just in case. I like people knowing their options and making good decisions about celebrating, without feeling like they're, forced to make a decision just because they're trying to celebrate something. All right, that's all I got for tonight. Thank you for being here. Thank you to my long-term subscribers for putting up with me. And if you pick one of these up, enjoy it. If not, no matter what, you don't need this ship to enjoy 4.0.0.1. And I can guarantee you, I personally saw quite a few of these myself flying around. If you just go into chat and ask a couple times nicely, somebody will let you check out the damn ship. Probably just leave it for you after they're wrapped up for the night too, by the way. So never feel obligated. Just enjoy the patch. It's live. For those who are rebuilding post wipe, I hope you have a very smooth transition into this new 4.0.0.1 world. And also the Stave Stanton Part 2 event is up. There's a few new rewards and SMG and some other stuff like that. If you feel so inclined, give it a shot. It is a lot smoother tonight. I was on a 550 player server when I recorded this, and I did edit, but I didn't leave anything out. You can see things. I did have to relog once because the hangar would not let me out. So full disclosure, other than that, I had a very smooth experience tonight on patch night. All right, take care.